Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another edition of Dark Powerrr. No episode of NWA Power today, but they did do a cool recap of Colt Cabana versus Nick Aldis for the NWA World Championship in China. It was a match that took place a couple years ago. I want to say sometime in 2017, maybe early 2018, sometime around that point in time, because I remember I used to listen to the Sam Roberts podcast, and he had Nick Aldis on as a guest, and it was around the time of that match, I want to say, or maybe a little bit after that. But we actually have a cool moment where Colt Cabana is featured on both NWA Power and AEW Dark. NWA Power, obviously, as I said, it's a throwback to a match of yesteryear, but today on AEW Dark, Colt Cabana is in the main event against one and only Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford. So to quickly run down the matches, we have Preston Vance with Brody Lee versus Ryan Piles. We have the captain, Sean Dean, going up against the Spanish god, Sammy Guevara. And in the main event, Kip Sabian versus Colt Cabana. Now, before we get to the matches, I just want to say that these are interesting times, as we all know. But one thing that hasn't changed is our sense of what it is to be wrestling fans. Now, that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. But to me, it kind of means trying to be as welcoming as possible, be as open as possible. You know, people don't always have to like the same things, right? You don't like the same music as I do. You don't like the same wrestling as I do. You don't like the same movies as I do. Some of you may be Iron Man fans, some of you may be Captain America fans, but we both love Marvel, right? And so we may not always like AEW versus WWE versus NXT, the NXT version of WWE, versus New Japan, versus Ring of Honor, versus Impact, versus any and all the indies, versus the deathmatch circuit, whatever the case may be, right? I could just keep listing promotions, listing styles, progress, you know, in England. But I want to say that we have a powerful opportunity to always do better, be better, and to try to be more inclusive, right? If somebody doesn't know something about wrestling and they're asking a question, or that might be why they have a opinion that you disagree with, maybe they don't know, right? And so there are facts and things out there, right? The reason why I got the moniker of StatKing in the True Heels lore or mythology of our group is that I have a tendency to know data points very well. I can recall different champions, different when matches happened, what was transpiring, all that sort of thing. Stats, right? Stats matter. And one of the things I learned was that it's not always a question of people having a difference of opinion. Sometimes it's people just don't know. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing. There is something wrong, I guess, if somebody tries to help you and you throw it back in their face, maybe. But it also depends on how we, the person, brings that information to them, right? So, just, guys, let's try to help one another, be there for one another. One person who was there for someone else was Brody Lee. Brody Lee accompanied Preston Vance, who they are calling PRES-10N, Vance, 10N Vance, as they've done multiple members of the Dark Order who are now referred to as numbers. The payoff kind of is that they are kind of rebranding or renaming Preston Vance as PRES-10N Vance. Kind of an interesting thing when you think about the fact that it's going to probably have people confused with the Sean Spears 10 thing, because he doesn't do that anymore as Ty Dillinger, but he does the tease for it. You're going to have crowds do the 10 thing to Preston Vance once we all get out of our living rooms, right? But Brody Lee was there for his minion, for his follower. Let's not say minion, his devoted follower of the Dark Order, because when you're with the Dark Order, there are many, but always one. And Preston Vance makes kind of short work of Ryan Piles. Ryan Piles does have a moment, a flurry of offense. But the story here is more about Preston Vance's interactions with Brody Lee, because ultimately the Dark Order is a way to help Brody Lee get over, right? And then when Brody Lee gets over, to reach back and help them. It's a symbiotic relationship. That's the general idea behind any faction, any group. So here we're focusing more on the story of what's happening between Preston and Brody Lee. Brody Lee standing outside of the ring, holding a chair, waiting for Preston to get this over with. He's supposed to be using the chair to sit, but he's thinking, or he's projecting, that the match should not take long enough for him to really need a chair. So the match progresses. At certain points in time, Preston Vance is completely dominating Ryan Pyles, as he should. But when Ryan Pyles gets a little bit of momentum, Brody Lee's swinging the chair at the turnbuckle. He's getting upset, he's getting annoyed, he's getting angry, and we're seeing that Brody Lee is it's another facet, right? It's another layer. He's demanding more and more competence from his followers. Preston Vance rewards his master, his loyal leader, with a win by putting away Ryan Pyles shortly after that. The next match is the Captain Shawn Dean versus Sammy Guevara. Now, I said it last week. I think I've said it a couple times. Shawn Dean, I hope, is somebody who gets an AEW contract. He has the whole package. And if you watch this match with him and Sammy, you can definitely see that if you have not already. Shawn Dean is somebody who can be a star for AEW or for any promotion. I mean, if they don't sign him, I hope he goes back to his home promotion, and he does amazingly well. And he helps carry that home promotion to bigger and better things. We always want to support independent wrestling and support wrestlers being able to take care of their families and feed their kids and so on and so forth. So Shawn Dean has a great match against Sammy Guevara. It, to me, just gets edged out slightly by the Colt Cabana Kip Sabian match. That will be the main event, but solid match. Sammy Guevara, we know he already has everything kind of put together, to the point that Cody, who is on commentary, makes the note that Sammy Guevara has kind of stepped into the number 2 role of the Inner Circle, and he kind of has absorbed, or is absorbing, a lot from Chris Jericho. And it's really great because as Sammy Guevara progresses in front of the AEW audience in our eyes, and we see that, right? This goes back to what I was saying earlier about a symbiotic relationship between a faction, the leader, and the followers. To the average person, Sammy Guevara is learning from Chris Jericho. It reinforces the notion that Chris Jericho is who he says he is, and he has the ability to help people because he is helping Sammy Guevara get better. Now, to the more trained eye, that may just be Sammy Guevara is developing as a in-ring competitor. He's learning from Billy Gunn. He is obviously going to be learning from Jericho, but the amount of which Jericho has an influence on that might be less than we may think, or we may know. It could just be a normal trajectory of where Sammy was going based off of the number of years that he's put in. You know, like in the NFL, I think it's, if you play fantasy, it's supposed to be, you look for 3rd or 4th year wide receivers. That's sometimes when they have a breakout year. They're finally able to put everything together. For Sammy, that might be happening. He's had a number of years in the business, and he's slowly been putting everything together. They do want to build around him, so it's great that they're putting him with Chris Jericho. So you can see that growth from Sammy Guevara as it's developed over less than a year, right? Because he's been with AEW for about a year. Yeah, but I don't think but more importantly than that, he was the first televised match at Dynamite. And from that point in time, from October until now, you can definitely see a lot of growth. But finally, turning to our main event, Boom Boom Colt Cabana. It's not the worst town I've ever been in, despite what the shirt says. Don't tell my girlfriend I said that. I love using this shirt to troll her, as she is a Chicagoan born and bred. But it is Chicago's own Colt Cabana versus Kip Sabian. This is a match that it's kind of cool because this match came from Dynamite. This is a situation where Kip Sabian didn't like what Colt Cabana had to say about what Penelope Ford was doing. So Penelope getting herself involved in Kip Sabian matches as she is wont to do as his manager, as is her right, I guess, or at least ability, maybe not right, because that should cause a disqualification, right? When she's doing those Hurricane Ranas off of the steps. I was going to say top rope, but it's not steps. Or from the apron. But he being Colt, was saying that I don't think Penelope Ford needs to really be involved that much with Kip Sabian matches. She has plenty enough talent on her own. And Kip kind of took that the wrong way. Colt smacked him on Dynamite. And now, a couple weeks later, we're getting the match on Dark. So this is really cool in that usually we see matches on Dark build matches on Dynamite. Or we see things that happen on Dark leading to things on Dynamite. This is one of the first times where it's reversed, where it's gone backwards, where Dynamite is setting up something that happens, or the payoff is on Dark. And that's really cool, because we want to see Dark continue to grow, we want to see it build, we want to see it become that second show, right, that's going to be on TNT down the road. So it's good to see them do this. I thought it was a smart plan to have it on Dark as opposed to Dynamite. And it's a great match. It's a good comedy match in the sense that Colt excels at doing comedy wrestling, where he is doing things like his opponent comes off the top rope for a splash, say, and Colt just steps out of the way. Or just little things like where he is able to duck and dodge and dive, and the person is a wrench. Colt's showing that he can duck, he can dodge it, right? He can evade. So this match has comedy elements to it, but it has serious elements to it as well. Kip has a legitimate bone to pick with Colt. Colt really doesn't care about Kip Sabian's bone to pick with him. And in this match, we definitely see flashes of why Colt is necessary for AEW. Colt provides a kind of a veteran presence for AEW that is not somebody like a Billy Gunn. So Billy Gunn is a great trainer, Billy Gunn is a great developer, but it's difficult for Billy Gunn to always go as well in the ring. He can still go, but not as well as Colt Cabana can go. Colt's much faster, younger, but still a very capable veteran. Colt Cabana also has the ability to continue storylines in the sense that it's believable when Colt wins. Not to say that it's not believable if Billy Gunn wins, it's just more believable when Colt wins, because we know Colt can have storylines. We know Colt will have storylines. We know that Colt could very well be a mid-card champion down the road, or have the TNT title down the road. He could form a tag team. He might even flirt with the main event. And when I say down the road for main events kind of stuff, maybe some years from now. I don't know how long his contract is. I don't know how long he'll be with AEW. But he is somebody where, I mean, after all, we are talking about a former multiple-time NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. That was, if you recall, when he was on NWA Power, that was something that he said to Eli Drake to get underneath Eli Drake's skin, was that I have done something you have never done, and it is hold the world's championship. So it's great to see them use Colt Cabana, but more than that, it's great to see them use him in such a way that he is enhancing talent, despite not being enhancement talent. And in that regard, Kip Sabian definitely shines here. Kip Sabian shows that he is a heel who, despite being frustrated, despite being potentially embarrassed, he will not give up. He will find a way to win. And whether that involves having Penelope distract Colt and the ref so that he can hit Colt in the family jewels, it doesn't matter. Kip Sabian will find a way to win. And that's kind of the takeaway from the main event and from that match. And one of our takeaways is that Dark is progressing. Dark is building. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen down the road, because this, from what I understand, is the last taped Dark, when they did a whole bunch of TV tapings. I think that Dynamite tonight, we're recording this on Wednesday, May 6th, happy National Nurses Day, which there are a lot of national days. Today happens to be National Nurses Day. So happy National Nurses Day to any nurses who are listening, watching, or who are related to anybody listening, watching. But I think Dynamite tonight is live, if I remember right. So I think they're going to go back to taping Dark before Dynamite. So what was nice about it was that it gave them time to properly have commentary, to build stories, to know where they were going, like fully have everything planned out. And they've shown that they've been able to do that even when they were taping a week in advance. But then it was a little bit more, let's just figure out what's the next Dynamite. With this Dark, they were able to kind of tell stories built throughout, especially because they were using enhancement talent that you kind of wanted to see whether or not this was going to be the week that Shawn Dean picked up a win, right? Or what is now going to happen between Colt and Kip after Dynamite translates onto Dark, translates into the future. Where do we go from here? So I'm eager to see what they do with it. I'm eager to see where they go with it. I know that today's Dynamite is live. I don't know off the top of my head whether or not future episodes are going to be live, whether they're basically just doing another live episode and then a whole slew of tapings or what, but that remains to be seen. But no matter what happens, just know that for everything AEW Dark, and hopefully down the road NWA Power, you can always come here, you can always come sit with me, and we'll have a chat. We'll talk about it, and until next time, guys, take it easy, stay safe. I'll see you.